Good morning. We are interconnective awareness meditation. I am for short. I'd just like to tell you about a thing within the human brain called the claustrum, the sacred claustrum. Once a month, when the moon is in your star chart, which is in there for 2.5 days, the claustrum releases an oil. And the sacred cloud, that travels down the spine after it's been into the pineal and pituitary gland to have electric and magnetic properties added to it. It's the land of milk and honey. That's where we get that from in the Bible, because the pineal gland releases serotonin and melanin, which is a milky substance. The pituitary releases the oil, which is the honey. These two travel down the spine, which is a hollow chamber, comes down to the sacrum. The sacrum is the pump for your spinal fluid. It pumps it back up, and then it gets reabsorbed into the pineal gland after crossing a thing called the vagus nerve. And there, the pineal gland releases it into the brain, and the brain becomes like a very heightened activity. You can feel the effects of it through your body. I've done 2 cycles of it, because I wanted to make sure that it was right before I attempted to speak about it. So everything, this thing about heaven is within you, it's true. You know, the feelings that I got and the spatial awareness, the clarity that I got was something I've never experienced before. And I've experienced some pretty amazing things, I think, in meditative states. So this was quite amazing. There's lots of information out there, so I really encourage you to have a look for yourself. Don't take anything that anyone says, including me, as gospel or as read. Certainly not the gospel, but as read. Just, you need to research yourself, as I did. I did lots and lots of research before I attempted to go into it and try to experience it for myself. Now, it seems on deeper analysis that the sun and the moon has to be in your star chart, and that's only for 2.5 days again, once a year. And that's like that I can't say this for definite because I haven't experienced it yet, but that seems to be the one. So the rest are what looks like to me practices to get you into the habit of doing this on a monthly basis in preparation for the sun and moon being in your star chart for those 2 days, 2.5 days. So yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. The story of Santa Claus, Santos, Sacred Claustrum, Santa's Claus, is where the sack, which is a blob of oil, is taken down the chimney, down the centre of the spine, and the presents left at the bottom if you're good, because there's certain conditions you have to meet to keep this oil from degrading. And then Santa's goes back up the chimney, so the oil is then pumped back up into the chimney. And if you're a good boy, you get your presents, you get your gifts, and that's beautiful that it actually ties in. The first time I experienced it, it was a whole body thing. It started from the bottom of the body and went through my whole body, and then the clarity and expanse that I got up here was just mind-blowing. It went on for an hour, and I've never been in a meditative state for an hour before, but I was unable to get off of the cushion. And when I eventually did and went to bed, it carried on in bed. The second one wasn't as powerful as that. The second one was completely different, but it seemed to be all the time for about 4 days. It was a real heady light, you know, almost like a hangover, like I had a hangover. It was quite weird. I was expecting the same thing the first time to be the second time, and, you know, almost looking forward to it, and it was completely different. But obviously we need different things at different times. So what you need the first time, the clearing you need the first time, is obviously going to be different to the second, to the third, to the fourth, etc. So if you look on the internet, there are some sites that will give you the information on. I'll try and dig that one out, because I did keep it, the site, because I look at mine now every month and I plot it in my diary. So maybe I'll post that up for you to look at, and you can start looking at that for yourself. Looking on the internet, if you do that, there's some cracking stuff on YouTube. What I would say is there's a guy called Sanchos Bonacci, and I would stay away from his stuff, not for any other reason than the guy knows too much, and he gets into a role with stuff, and he's trying to give you so much information that he tends to run off, and then he has to draw himself back, and then he runs off again to another. So he's got too many branches to his knowledge, whereas people who are not as knowledgeable and have only studied one area tend to be more precise in that, and they're giving you what you're looking for. But there's loads of people out there that know about this. My disappointment is that the way they talk, I think they're just repeating what they've learned or what they've heard, rather than experiencing it for themselves. But you need to be your own experiment. You know, you need to analyze this stuff for yourself, and the only way to analyze it is to do it. And that's what the Buddhists say: believe nothing your family, friends, or loved ones tell you until you have proved that for yourself. So you need to do this for yourself. Okay. So the conditions, so I'll just run through it. We have in our brain a thing called the Sacred Claustrum, where Santa Claus comes from. It releases an oil once a month when the moon is in your star chart for 2.5 days. That travels into the pineal gland and the pituitary. The properties of it are changed. It's then released to come down the spine. It picks up a seed in the solar plexus. I know that, and I don't understand that, because I didn't feel that personally, but, you know, I did feel an energy in the middle of me. But then it travels down to the sacrum, which is the fused spine at the bottom, and that's our pump for our spinal fluid, and that pumps it back up. It then crosses the vagus nerve, goes back into the olive, and then it's absorbed by the pineal gland and released into the brain. And anyone that's read anything about DMT or anything like that, or the altered states, will understand that the pineal is our gateway to ourselves. It's the polishing of the mirror. It's the demuddying of the puddle, you know, because we don't know who or what we are. So if we fall back into nature and we start to reconnect to nature, and we start to follow these sacred practices, we start to reconnect ourselves to ourselves, because there is no separation. All we're doing is seeing who and what we really are, rather than the way society has de-educated us, devolved us to think we are a certain thing, and we must act a certain way, and we must fit in a certain way. So the conditions that need to be met. Now this is a hard bit, because actually, you know, preparing yourself for this experience, I found, was quite easy, and it comes in stages, because as a reasonably termed seasoned meditator, naturally drugs don't play a part in my life anymore, and they used to play a massive part in my life. They were my life at one time. Alcohol is something else that played a massive part in my life. Again, it's one of the first things I thought about when I got up, and it was the last thing I was doing before I went to bed. That plays no part in my life anymore, at all. I don't drink at all. sex is something that has to be abstained from that certain time, because that depletes the energy. Alcohol is a solvent. You know, if you have an oil and you have anything alcohol based, then it will clean that out, it will wash it away. So that's what happens if you drink alcohol around that time. Luckily, I've come to a stage where in myself I don't want alcohol in my body, and it's just a natural thing that's happened to me, so I'm very fortunate there. Drugs, again, is an altered state that you don't want, because it will interfere with the natural processes we have. And they're unnatural. I mean, the feeling you get far exceeds anything that you could put into your body anyway. You know, this synthetic false stuff, it far exceeds that. It's beautiful, you know, and it's clean, you know, and it's doing you something. It's reconnecting, another wire's getting connected, and this thing is getting bigger and stronger, and your connection is being more established, a stronger establishment. And once you are so well established to who and what you are, you can't be lied to anymore. You can't be convinced that you're something else. I certainly couldn't be convinced to go and hurt somebody. You know, it just couldn't happen. This thing that's going on in Syria and in Russia, when you look deep into that, you've got to go and do a lot of research. But you'll see the manipulation that those that are in power, and I don't mean the government, I mean really in power, and that are controlling our government, and ultimately us. You can see what's going on. It becomes incredibly simple and obvious to understand. But most of us won't establish our own connection to nature. And once you've established your own connection to nature, you're stood outside of what society really, what the societal thinking is. And then you can observe it from an outside position, as an observer rather than a participant. And it gets easier to pick this apart. And in yourself you can make predictions. And I've watched this story unfold, and you can predict what's going to happen next. And it does. So you can see what's going on in an incredible, clear and obvious way. And when you do see that, you detach even more. And I don't detach from society. I'm married, I've got children, I run a shop, I'm in contact with people every day. And I like contacting with people. I like contact with like-minded people, and I like to talk to people that are not like-minded, because then you can get a balanced view. You can, you know. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. So there's conditions that need to be met, okay, for you to experience this oil, this sacred oil being released into the body, and then sent back up into the pineal gland. So no alcohol. Now, I don't know how long you're not supposed to do this for. I can only go through by my experience. And what I did, the alcohol, as it happens, naturally slipped out of the equation, and I wasn't taking alcohol for the first time in my life, as I can remember since about 14, for a month. I just didn't have alcohol. So before this came up, before I'd done enough research. Sex, I believe, for me personally, I did it for 10 days before. I didn't have any sexual activity, and then the 4 days, which was a long time, and it was quite difficult, I've got to say. So the second time I shortened that, and the third time I'm thinking the whole thing, I'm going to experiment again. Now, don't take anything I say as an answer, because I don't know. I am just experimenting, I'm playing, I'm finding out for myself, and everybody's different, so you have to find out for yourself. All I can tell you is that the journey so far is worth it. No ifs or buts about it. It's worth it. I can't wait to reach my birthday, which is December the 27th, and get both the sun and the moon into my star chart, and then do it then, because that's supposed to be the big one. This is the Bible. This is what the Bible's talking about, where Jesus went around with 12 disciples. They're 12 signs of the zodiac, and he travelled through those. He met with each one, and they all represent a sign of the zodiac. And the moon, when the father and the mother are in your star chart, you are in a state of completion, and then magical things can happen. So just having the moon in my star chart and experiencing those 4 days with that being clean inside, my temple is clean, and experiencing that, is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. You start to notice a lot of synchronization. You know, and you can see there is no accidents in nature. There is none. There's no gaps in nature. Everything is working together. Because everything is one. So there cannot be no separation. There can be no disjoint between something that is whole. Only when you detach yourself from it, by design or by ignorance, that you don't recognize this, and you can have an illusion of being detached. And when you don't know what you are, you can be told you're anything. You can be convinced that you are anything. And society has certainly been convinced that it's one thing when it's not. This thing, God, we've been convinced that it's one thing, and it isn't. God is creation. I hate the word God because it's so... I don't hate, that's a strong word, and that's a stupid thing to say, excuse me for that. It's not... I dislike the word God because let's just call God creation, because that's what it is. It's a creative force. It's an immovable force of creation. So everything that is created is part of God. It's that simple. So everything you look at is part of creation. And we are creators. We cannot be separated from the thing that they've told us is God. We cannot be separated from creation because we are creation. We create from nothing. A woman and a man together create something from nothing, a child. From the unmanifested state, we turn it into a manifested state. Look around you. Everything that we see above the surface of the earth came from below it. We've created that. We've taken it from our mother. Without the sun, nothing would grow. There'd be no life. That's creation. The whole thing is one. There is no separation. So when you get people telling you, you come to me and I can save you. How can you save me? I'm not in a position to need to be saved. I am creation. You know, people do things wrong, I get that, and you say, well, this person, that's for them to work out. That's their part. They've got to re-establish their connection with nature. And there will be penalties for that nature will implement, and it's called karma. I've written a bit about that in the little green book I did. You can look at it on the internet, on www.stressproofyourself.com. I had a meditation experience, and the whole karma thing came to me, and bang, I could see the whole thing. And it's a little Santa Claus that they put in for us, you know. If you be a good boy, you know, no, it's not true. It's not true. You know, we can reach a place of heaven, and heaven is within us. I've started to find it and get a glimpse of it. I've started to see it. And in the Bible it says, and I'm not a Biblican, I don't believe in organised religion, because I know what they're doing. It's obvious what they're doing. It's when you watch a child play, you get to see what's going on. And I can see what the churches are doing and what they have been doing for many, many years. And I chased it right back to the Egyptians, to the first corruption that I could find. And that was the priests in that highly evolved society. They were the first corruption. They started holding the scales to prevent the heart from weighing down over a feather. And people paid them, and they said that they could prevent the scales from falling down. We can absolve your sins, but you must pay us. And that's still going on. Going to churches today, it's still going on. And you cannot be saved by anybody. It's within you. And you start, if I can give you any advice, I would say please start by meditating. got to start somewhere. I do a meditation here every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. I put it on my on this channel so you can do it at any time you want. You know, just 5-10 minutes a day, and you will start to, the mud will start to settle in the puddle, and you will start to see a little bit of clear water there, or you'll start to polish the mirror and wipe the mud away. You'll start to see what you are, and then naturally things will just turn up for you. I can believe, because it's happened, but I would never have said that the things that have come to me could have come to me, it could possibly have just turned up when they've turned up and how they've turned up. Nature is, it's beautiful. Creation is beautiful. It's there's no gap. It gives you exactly what you need when you need it. You may not get what you want, but you will definitely get what you need. Start with meditation. Then when you're meditating and you feel you can do that at a reasonable accomplishment, then look into this sacred claustrum or the sacred oil or the sacred secretion, and there's lots of information out there on it. Look at that and then try to get yourself into that, and you know, do it just once, you know, to discipline yourself, to not have alcohol, to not have sex, to not take any drugs, you know, to try and think like a good person. That, can we not do that for 7 days? The Christians tell you about giving things up for Lent, and I'm not knocking anybody because their beliefs are good. If it makes you a good person, it's a good thing. But can we not just be a good, clean person, make sure that our temple is clean for 7 days? If we can't do that, then we don't deserve it, do we? So if you can keep your body clean for 7 days, look on the internet. I'm going to get that website that tells you when the moon's in, you know, each star chart for the 2.5 days. It travels for in 1 month. It travels into every star chart for 2.5 days. And when it's in yours, that's when the claustrum releases this sacred oil. And I will just say again and repeat, I'm only just playing this. I don't know. What I do know is that I've done it on 2 cycles, consecutive cycles, and I can't explain something you have to do for yourself. I can't explain to someone who's never eaten a sweet what a sweet tastes like. It's impossible. You know, it's just empty words. Experience it for yourself, and then you'll know. You know, and then anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because I can waffle on myself. I've got a mouth like a torn pocket in a hurricane, and I'm passionate about this. So I really want everyone to experience it. You know, and I want everyone to wake up. I want people to really discover who and what they are. You know, how special you are. You know, you're unique. You know, in creation, it chose to make one of you. You know, that was enough. You're enough. No one can see, feel, experience and put that feedback into creation that you have, that you are experiencing, that you are uniquely designed to do. By yourself, on some level, you created yourself, because you are creation. I want people to establish that. I can imagine the change in the world if we stop listening to warmongering politicians. You know, we have a day that's been given to us by the UN, United Nations, which is the 21st of September, which is an international day of peace, and not one government that I can see promote that, and yet they're all members of it. And that the condition is they must be peace-loving nations, and they must promote that. Not one of them put it on TV, not one of them put it on the paper, the radio, there's no mention of it. These are not peace-loving people. These are warmongers. You know, our politicians that we vote for, we pay their wages, have just gone in and bombed another country again, murdering and adding murder on murder. And as it happens, he has nothing to gain by bombing his own people. He was winning. He's winning the war. The Americans are pulling out. He's winning. So all of a sudden, he's bombed his own people, and now everyone's gone in there and bombed him. You know, you've got to look into the history of it. But they're warmongers, and they're using us, our daughters, brothers, sisters, because we're all one. Everyone's my brother, everyone's my sister, my mother. We're all related. They're being used as cannon fodder. You know, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And we just go along with it. But that's because we don't know who we are, we don't know what we are. Because we've been detached, systematically detached from that. This information has been hid. It's not just disappeared by accident. It's been hid and taken away from us. So we can't be used. We can be manipulated and controlled. There you go, I gone off again. I'm terrible. So anyway, what I'm going to say to you is have a lovely day. And again, I mean this. I sincerely mean this. You're unique. There's only one of you, and we can't afford to lose you. So please look after yourself. And please investigate what I've spoke about, the Sacred Claustrum, or the Sacred Secretion. Have a look at it. It's going to connect you to who you really are and what you really are. The whole of your life is going to change. The whole of your understanding is going to change. The whole of you is going to change. Yeah. Have a lovely day, and thank you for joining me. Tony, it's lovely to see you. Thank you very much. And if you think this information can help anybody else, then please pass it on, please share it. If you have any questions, and I'm able to answer them, and very often, you know, I don't know if I can, I can't, but I will do my best if I can answer them. So please just drop me a message or a text or something. So have a lovely day. I'll see you again.